conversation about the book I liked. Today I will be talking about the book Animal Farm by George Orwell. It's a book I read a few years ago that I really like. I don't actually have the book with me. Here's what the cover looks like. So we read it in English class a few years ago as kind of an assignment. And at first going into it, I didn't think I was going to like it at all. I thought it was going to be really boring. But I read it, and it was a real page turner. I really liked it. It's probably one of my favorite books. I really enjoyed it. So the main plot of the book is one pig. It's a bunch of animals on a farm, and one pig wants to overthrow the farmer that's taking control of the entire place. And he convinces every other animal to get together and overthrow the farmer, and they do. And then they form their own kind of farm, just together as one communion of animals, and things just start to go awry as the main head of the entire farm, a couple of pigs, turn kind of corrupt, and the whole cycle starts all over again. I really like the book because how it is an allegory for communist Russia back during the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. Some representation in the book, some symbolism. The main pig, who's the head of the whole thing, his name is Napoleon, and he is a representation of Joseph Stalin, who is, of course, the leader of the Soviet Union for most of the first half of the 20th century. And also the other one would be Snowball, who is Leon Trotsky. Those two kind of bashed heads together, and that also happened in the book. And also, the pigs kind of promote this idea called animalism to all the other animals. It's an idea of just how to run the farm. And that's a symbol of just communism altogether. I really enjoyed the book. I like history a lot, so I learned a lot from the book. Some questions to answer here. What does it have to do with me? I like to watch the news a lot and pay attention to what's going on in our country. I like how it has to do with how the farm is run and its representation of how Soviet Union was ran right after the revolution. So I kind of like the sort of political aspect of it. I thought it was really interesting, and it could be sort of a warning by the author George Orwell of when you promote something, it sometimes isn't always exactly what it seems on the surface. So the next one, does the text clash with your views? No. Plain and simple, no, it doesn't. Pretty much public schools have been taught in America that communism is bad. This whole book pretty much says communism, corruption, and fascism are bad. So, nope, not at all. It doesn't clash at all. Next question, how did you learn and change? I didn't know a lot about history when I went into the book, and when I read it, I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot about the Soviet Union, how the country of Russia was first established back in the 20th century after the revolution, and the entire idea of what communism and economics is. So I learned a lot about that stuff. How well does it address the things you care about? Well, like I said earlier, it talks a lot about the economics of communism and how the Soviet Union was run. It does really nail it in the point that it's kind of a bad system, and leaders you can't always trust, and they will come back. You'll end up right back where you started sometimes, even though you don't want to. Next question is a critique of the book. It said it's one of my favorite books. I rated it a 10 out of 10. I really don't have any issues with the book. I wish it was a little longer, I guess. It's only 113 pages long. But it's also good that it's kind of short, especially because I read it in 8th grade, 7th grade, I think. So young boys like that, they can't really keep their attention for very long. And last question, what was my overall reaction to the text? Well, I guess it's kind of changed me as a person and changed my views of how I see the world outside of the Western Hemisphere. Russia, kind of what happened to their country in the 20th century with this whole revolution and political turmoil. I thought the book represented the entire idea really well. George Orwell, the author himself, really hated Soviet Union and how it was overrun by the communists. During World War II, just a fun fact, when the British people and Soviet Union were kind of together as allies against Nazi Germany, a lot of the British people kind of liked Stalin. He thought he was a good leader, and George Orwell did not like that his fellow Brits liked him, and he was strongly critical of that. Like I said, his book was published right when World War II was ending, so that was kind of when everybody settled down and realized who was the real enemy. The United States turned to the Soviet Union and realized we're now in a Cold War with them. So it was pretty much a perfect time for him to publish the book. It was a big success in the United States. Because of that, people started to turn a cold shoulder to their once ally Russia. So, yep, that's what I have to say about the book, Animal Farm, one of my favorites. Thank you for listening.